We are in Dagestan, one of the most ethnically and culturally diverse regions on the entire planet. In fact, this city, Derbent, dates all the way back to 8th century BC and was an important cultural stop on the Great Silk Way, which means it's a perfect place for us to jump right in and get a feel for everything. Murtazali Magomedov is a local historian, musician, and guide with a special passion and connection to Dagestani culture. First of all, thank you for meeting me here in Chok. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. So let's get right into it. Dagestan, 30 different ethnic groups, 14 different languages, about 200 different dialects. How can you have so much diversity in such a small, small space?
The Arabs and other travelers who came here used to say that Dagestan was not just a land of mountains, but also a mountain of languages. People living on each mountain spoke their own language. The roads were barely passable. Settlements had little contact with each other, so different places had their own different languages, different customs, and different cultures. Even today, when you literally go past the next hill, you'll hear a different language. Some speak Dargin, others speak Lak, others speak Lezgin or Tabasaran. So, impassable mountains. And it's the nature of our people. They like to be different from everyone else. Traditionally, they're attached to what they see as their own. Language, crafts, and so on. There are 32 languages in Dagestan today. Unfortunately, 25 are likely to go extinct in the near future because languages are disappearing, just like in the rest of the world. And that's very sad.
With so much diversity, it's still incredible that there isn't any infighting. In fact, there's a word that I believe you have called Gortsi, meaning Highlander. What does this word mean to you? What does it mean to be Gortsi here in Dagestan?
Gortsi are people who are free, free like an eagle. A Highlander is self-sufficient. As we say, people in the mountains aren't rich. They are self-sufficient. They have enough. Highlanders are guardians of land. Little settlements were built in hard-to-reach spots where agriculture was impossible. And the name Dagestan itself means a land of mountains. So that makes all Dagestani people Gortsi. When someone does a good job, people praise him. You're a real Gorets. Being called a Gorets is a sign of recognition from the local people.
You're talking about relationships between people. Everyone here is open, they're friendly, they help each other. In fact, I've seen this with my own eyes. People can walk into someone's house and there's so much hospitality. But I've also heard that the mountain people are tough. It seems like a paradox. Can you explain this paradox to me?
Well, you can walk into any Highlander's home and be their honored guest, and not just on big holidays. You can do that at any time. As we say, a guest is a messenger from Allah A person doesn't just show up in a mountain village for no reason. If he's here, he must need something. And the Highlanders, the host's job is to help that person the best way he can, so that the visitor is comfortable. The guest gets the best room, the best food, the best treatment. At the same time, our harsh conditions, with temperatures dropping sharply at night, must have influenced the local character as well. Our people can easily get relaxed, but their tempers rise just as quickly. It's like a muscle that contracts and relaxes. Maybe that explains the paradox. That's what I think, at least as someone who lives here.
Even getting you here today, it is not that easy. Living in the mountains is hard. Why do people choose this life to live up here, away from all technology, away from all civilization?
Well, as I said before, a Highlander's main treasure is his freedom. He felt free in places like this, with no walls surrounding him, nothing blocking his vision. You can see an enemy or a friend approaching from a long way away. You have this special climate, so people found their roots here, and once they settled, for whatever reason, they guarded their fertile lands on mountain terraces, and they were self-sufficient. They had everything they needed. There are alpine meadows above, there's terrace farming below. There are some gardens where you can at least grow apples and pears, and that was enough to sustain life here in the mountains.
It's fascinating. I have to ask, because you look amazing. Tell me about what you're wearing.
This is traditional Highland dress. At first they were white, but during the Caucasian War they were mostly red, so that wounds wouldn't be so visible. That's why we have this joke in Dagestan that red is the avar color. A Cherkeska has special breast pockets for rifle charges. Back then, flintlocks were used. And the pockets helped you reload quickly. It was easy to remove cartridges when lying down, much easier than from a cartridge belt. To get a cartridge out of a belt, you had to raise the upper part of your body, even only a little, and become a target. That pocket allowed you to reload and shoot while staying pressed to the ground. This here is just an element of the costume, but also a reminder. A Highlander is always ready to help, if the need arises. But you're not supposed to pull your dagger out of its scabbard without a good reason. According to our saying, in order to wear a dagger on your belt, you need not just have a papacha on your head, but also a head under your papacha. And that means that you're supposed to think twice before using a dagger. Even when Gotzi would get into a fight, stabbing your opponent with a dagger like this was considered cowardice and made you a target of a blood feud. You were supposed to slash in order to stop your opponent, even cut his wrist, but stabbing meant killing. And in our religion, even pointing at a person like this is perceived as a threat. You're not supposed to do it. Even if I just do this, I'll have to answer for this threat to the Almighty. So a dagger is just a deterrent.
Это считается угроза, даже вот за эту угрозу мне перед Всевышним придется отвечать.
I see. I have so many more questions for you, and I also know that you're a musician, so I'm fascinated to carry on this conversation someplace else. You ready? So I have to say, this is a beautiful, incredibly interesting instrument. Tell me the story. What do we have here?
In the Avar language, we call this instrument tamur, or pandur in Russian. It's the oldest musical instrument in the mountains. A young guy fell in love with a girl but failed to win her hand in marriage. So he killed his only goat and chopped down his only tree, because he was the owner of only one dagger. And then he made this instrument with strings fashioned from the goat's guts. And then he sang a very bitter song about unrequited love. And that's the story of how songs and this instrument appeared in the mountains. Our mountain songs are very long and have very profound meanings. Back in the day, one could get a horse or an ox as payment for a song. Words were very highly prized here in the mountains, and so were songs.
Very cool. One thing that I can't miss here are all of the terraces. Obviously, they're not natural, but they've been here for thousands of years. How were they made and why?
The terraces here in Choch were the first example of grain terrace farming in the world. Behind the village of Choch, on the other side of that rock, there's the site of the Choch settlement, dating back to 6,000 or 7,000 years BC. It's very ancient. It's thought to be Neolithic. So these terraces are very, very old. These lands sustained our forefathers.
Not far from here is a small ghost town or village called Gamsutul. It's a little bit haunting, and some people are calling it the Machu Picchu of Dagestan. Why did everyone pick up and leave from this area?
Yes, we do call Gamsutul a ghost village, and some refer to it as the Machu Picchu of Dagestan. It's a unique place that's just behind our backs. People abandoned it after a heavy rainfall in 1963, when it was raining in Dagestan for 3 straight months. A bridge down below was washed away. So Gamsutul was left without a bridge for several years. By and by, children began to ask their parents to come down from the village. It would be great, of course, to revive Gamsutul. It's a very interesting village. In our language, we call it Ramas Ramsut, a locked chest in the mountains that's never been captured. It's fascinating. And there are many villages like that. Unfortunately, every year ghost villages appear in Dagestan because people are leaving. I hope that there will be a program in our republic to preserve the mountains and support the Highlanders who still live there. It's not so easy to live here, but it really is amazing. This is our land. Our roots are here. And of course, there is no other place in the world that we'd rather be.
I want to thank you for an incredibly interesting conversation and for helping us get a better feel for what Dagestan is all about. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I hope you'll return to Dagestan again and again. And we'll always be happy to have you here. You're our kunak now, as we say in the mountains. My home is your home, and the home belongs to the one who lives in it. Welcome to Dagestan.
Спасибо, конечно. Dangerous beauty. 2 words that describe the landscape of Dagestan. Perhaps no one embodies that idea more than ever-eccentric Kamil Mamayev. He and his family have been practicing the art of tightrope walking for 6 generations. Kamil, hi.
Hello.
See you in a second.
Right on.
Kamil, thank you for coming down to see me because there's no way that you were going to catch me up there on the rope. So thank you for that. Let's get right into it. Why is your village specifically known for tightrope walking? How did this art evolve and why do you do it?
Our village didn't invent tightrope walking or anything like that, but at some point many people started practicing this sport, this art, and then exported it around the world. People from my village have worked with many circuses, both here and abroad. That's how our village came to be known as the capital of tightrope walking. They mostly did that to earn a living.
We know it's dangerous through all of the risk. What's in it for you specifically? Why do you personally do this?
This has become my purpose in life, a tradition, and I consider it my duty to pass it on to the next generation to improve it. I want it to become more modern and make it safer as well.
Do you ever get scared? I mean, what's going through your mind when you are up there on the rope? Like, what do you feel?
It's always scary on the rope. Everyone gets scared. This is normal. You just need to relax and be aware that there is danger and there is fear. I use a safety harness. I know it's safe, and I try to keep my fear in check. The more you train, the easier it gets.
We know that there's a lot of physical work in what you do. I mean, it takes a sportsman to be able to have that type of control over your body. Is it all about your talent and what you can do physically, or is there a special mindset that you have to get into?
Physically, anyone can walk a tightrope no matter what their age or weight, but there are different varieties. There's slackline, trickline, waterline, etc. Some young tightrope walkers do tricks. Those who are afraid of heights can do longline walks. The rope is longer, but it's low. You don't have to get up so high, so everyone can find something that works for them.
And final question is, we know this is your job. We know you're very good at what you do. But does it bring you joy?
Yes, it does. I love what I do, but it's tough. At times I've thought about quitting, but those thoughts are behind me now. I have a goal and I'm going to achieve it. My main task is to make this a safe environment for the next generation so they can learn and train. I vary my performances and introduce new tricks to get them interested. I want to make tightrope walking popular.
Thank you for an interesting conversation. I just want to say able to be here where they're actually making these carpets. So, as I understand, these carpets started off as something more practical to keep homes warm, but now they're an incredible art form. How did this transition happen?
These designs have evolved. Back in the old days, up to 2,000 years ago, the carpets were produced for purely practical purposes, to keep your home warm. Later, carpet weavers turned into real artists. People appeared who'd now be called designers. But those old designers created these unique patterns and carpets.
I know that it's more than just beautiful designs that we have here in these carpets, but there's more of a code inside them as well. Can you translate some of what this code means in some of these carpets for me?
Yes, it's true. You could say there's history in these rugs. Their designs show everyday objects, things that surround people in their daily lives. All of that was reflected in carpet patterns. Those things were connected with the culture of a specific area. Each region had its own designs, which were named after the regions, villages or towns where those carpets were made.
I understand you're going to show us your a workshop where you actually make the colors. I can't wait to see that.
We'll be glad to show you our work.
Kruto. And the art is passed down from generation to generation, with each individual learning their role from an early age. So this is an amazing experience to be able to watch you work. I can tell you that my mom would be fascinated with this experience right now. So this is a pretty big rug. How long does it take to make a rug this size, or even just a normal size rug?
If there's no other work to be done, it's obviously a quicker process. So if she only focuses on the carpet, she can weave just about 1 square meter per month.
Very cool. And how many people does it take to work on one specific rug?
A big rug like that needs about 5 weavers working 6 to 8 hours per day. There's no formal education for carpet weavers. When girls are 6 to 8 years old, they are taught how to make knots. These are simple movements like this. And then over time, a girl learns this craft from her mother or grandmother. There's no formal training. It's a gradual process. First it's knots, then pattern making, then the threading of weft. Over time, any girl can learn. Every weaver chooses a design herself. Colors are selected intuitively based on how they look together. When you're weaving and you see this beautiful pattern emerging, it's very pleasing. And when the carpet is finished, your neighbors and relatives usually come to take a look. A well-made rug is a source of pride.
Well, thank you for taking the time to show me. It is fascinating. So this is a carpet that you've been working on. It's almost finished. Lots of intricate designs, beautiful colors, but to me it tells a story. So tell me the story of what this carpet says.
This here is a dragon. A dragon means power and energy. It stands for beauty that absorbs everything. The body of the dragon contains all these different elements. Here is the dragon's head. Here is its body, arms and legs. This is a highly unusual pattern, typical of our culture and reflected in this rug. And to make a carpet like this, you need special colors. It has some unusual hues. This is rose madder, and this color comes from plants that only grow in Dagestan. You can't get this beautiful green shade anywhere else. Green is the symbol of the dragon. It's very beautiful.
I'm surrounded by all of these yarns that are vibrant and rich in color. How exactly are they made?
All these colors come from different plants. I'm holding rose madder root that's used to produce red dyes. We make different shades of red from rose madder. Black comes from walnut pericarp. Different plants are used to make different colors.
Do you feel like a kid with a coloring book and some crayons when you're in there making these colors? What's going through your mind when you're actually doing the process?
It certainly is an enthralling process. Making a dye depends on many things, including your mood. Look at all these reds, brick red and other hues. The exact shade depends on minute factors, so it does enthrall and captivate you, literally like a child.
So you're going to keep these secrets to yourself, or are you going to tell me the secrets so that I can help make some colors as well?
I could share a dozen secrets, but there are many, hundreds and thousands, because creating each color is an art, which leads you to discover new secrets. So I can share any secret with you, no problem. Be my guest.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure seeing where you work. Thanks. Experience for someone to come inside the workshop and see where the magic happens. So thank you for this, an honor for me. I have to ask, the technology that is used to make this beautiful jewelry dates back thousands of years. How have you preserved it? How has it stayed the same for so long?
Khabib jewelry has always preserved its core feature, the Khabib ornaments, the designs. They've remained pretty consistent for 1,000 years.
Well, you mentioned Khabib and the history here. I'm interested in how this one specific place became famous for jewelry. And what's your story? How did you get involved?
There are many legends about Persian or French influences. Sometimes people call us French or Franks. The idea being that some foreigners settled here in the mountains and started making weaponry. But these are just myths. Unfortunately, there's no historical data about how it all began. We know about 6 or 7 generations of our family, and there have always been jewelers amongst us, right up until this day.
Is this something that is taught at such an early age? Like, is it a skill like reading and writing? I mean, the work is so intricate.
Our children have hammers and bits of copper and silver as their toys. They hammer away trying to make stuff, so they acquire these skills before they learn how to walk. As they get older, they see their dad making something beautiful. They see their mum helping. And so these family traditions and family values are preserved. They get used to seeing this and develop a certain inclination. When they start school, that's when we begin teaching them, from first grade onwards. Just as they learn to write, they learn the grammar of Khabib art as well.
Are they just beautiful designs, or do they tell a story? What do they mean? Can you tell me what is behind the meaning of these different beautiful designs in the jewelry?
Historically, all our designs were derived from nature, inspired by flowers, etc. Those natural shapes would be modified and broken down into different shapes to bring out their beauty. Each jeweler or artist has his own imagination, has his own little quirks, so to speak. So every person is different. Even in a small bracelet like this, you can see that each link is different from the rest, because it's all handmade. As I always say, you pour your soul into every piece you create, as well as all the knowledge you've accumulated over the decades.
Thank you for an interesting conversation and a very fascinating experience. This is an incredible space. Thanks for taking the time to speak to me here. So it's my understanding that women help out in the process of making the jewelry here as well, in terms of blackening and in other ways. Are there certain parts of the job that are only for women and only for men? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, our women do help the men with jewelry making. They help with applying enamel, with blackening, with additional engraving, so they're involved in some of the processes. Men handle tasks to do with assembling, polishing, and the initial engraving, which is a challenging process. Apart from all the silver work, women also do embroidery.
If you don't mind me asking, I see that you're wearing a beautiful headscarf. And my understanding is that this means something here in Kubachi, that a woman wearing a headscarf, it tells a story. So what does this mean? Can you tell me about that?
Yes, it's our traditional Kubachi headscarf. It's called kaz. I'm wearing a married woman's kaz. So, a kaz tells you the marital status of its wearer. Our mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers have worn these scarves. We put them on too when leaving the house. These scarves are embroidered by the women of Kubachi themselves. Let me show you my collection. Some of these scarves are for married and some for unmarried women. This one is a maiden scarf, which you can tell by its shorter tassels, narrow band, and small patterns. The others are scarves that I wear. They are for a married woman. And this is the embroidery I'm working on right now. I just started it. First, you draw your design and then begin to embroider.
It's very beautiful. And this is something you're working on right now?
Yes, I'm working on it now.
Incredibly interesting. Thank you very much for taking the time to show us part of your culture. Incredibly fascinating.
Благодарю вас.